start by first acknowledging that the land being taken and destroyed for fossil fuel infrastructure has been stolen once before from the indigenous peoples of those areas, that it's indigenous land that we're on here today, and that it's indigenous peoples that started and lead the fossil fuels resistance movement. To briefly introduce myself, Jess already did actually. I'm Stacey Lovelace of Virginia Pipeline Resistors, and thank y'all again for coming out today to Rise for Climate and to Rise for Virginia, because Virginia has no exception to the impacts of climate change. We're here today to say we want climate justice now. That means no more environmental injustice, no more fossil fuel projects, and no more fossil fuel money corrupting our governments, like what we see with Dominion in our Virginia state government. Only around 20 out of 140 state legislators have refused money from Dominion Energy. And Governor Northam himself as well, with pockets lined by hundreds of thousands of dollars from Dominion and Friends, tries to go 50% on climate by opposing offshore drilling, but supporting the Atlantic Coast and Mountain Valley pipelines, which are climate devastators that will produce emissions equivalent to 45 coal plants and destroy public health and are prime examples of environmental racism and environmental injustice. We're here to say we won't stand for that. It's time for elected officials that are 100% free of dirty fossil fuel energy money and 100% committed to 100% renewable energy by the year 2035. No more valuing corporate donations over people's lives and over our children's future here on this planet. The winds of change are here. We are the winds of change, with our voices and our votes. And we're going to blow the corrupt corporations like Dominion out of our state government, as well as the government officials who hang on to those corporations and who hang on to those corporations' money. And we'll put in real climate leaders in their place. Yes, that's for you. Okay, thank you. And so throughout the event, please do share the action on social media. We have 2 hashtags on that sign down there. If somebody wants to pick up that sign and hold it, that would be awesome too. And please do tag the governor, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general, and your legislator if you know your legislator's handle. And please do make sure to get one of the flyers if you haven't already. That has a song on the back that we'll be using during our symbolic action at the end. And it also has actions you can take to keep rising going forward from today. And now I am going to pass the mic to Jessica Sims.
Hey everybody, I'm Jessica Sims. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Sierra Club Virginia chapter, and I have the pleasure of introducing our speakers today. Our first speaker, Beth Roach. Her passion for the environment began in her childhood in Surry County, and her interest in the intersection of community, environment, and public memory led her to a career with Virginia State Parks, the James River Association, and now as a local organizer. She's an enrolled member and tribal councilwoman for the Nottoway Indian Tribe of Virginia, and as the vice chair of the Advisory Council on Environmental Justice, Ms. Roach fights to safeguard and protect the places and people that she loves. So let's please give her a warm welcome.
Today to offer one mind of wisdom and messaging to our elected officials. And I would truly love to thank you all for allowing me to speak and to be a part of this gathering. So as being a member of the Nottoway Indian Tribe of Virginia, that's a part of the larger Iroquois culture, and anytime we have a gathering such as this, it's really important for us to start with our Thanksgiving prayer. So I would really love to offer that for us today. I'll make it really sweet because it could be really long. Like there's stories of it being like a week long. All right, so Creator, we thank first all of those who are here today. So that's all of you, every single one of us that's standing here today. As we share and we lift each other's voices up. We thank you, Creator, for our Mother Earth that we stand on. We thank the Creator for the water that gives us our life. We thank the Creator for the plants that sustain us, the plants that heal us, for those that remember how to use those ancient ways of the plants. We're grateful for them. We're thankful for the birds who teach us how to sing. We're thankful for the animals who teach us how to live with the earth and with each other. We're thankful, Creator, for the trees that help to shelter us and to give us our oxygen. We're grateful for the winds, both land-based and offshore, that bring us lots of energy and lots of change. We thank the creator for the sun, which gives us our energy, everlasting energy. Thank the creator for the thunders that bring rain, for the grandmother moon that governs the ebbs and flows of tides and our women's cycles. We're grateful for the stars that give us guidance at night and they're so beautiful. And we're grateful, creator, for you. We say our most precious words for the creator, and if we forget anything, that's not our intent. So if you can think of anything else that you're grateful for, go for it. So I just want to say Nawe. So that means thank you. And as we are now of one mind, I'm just going to let you know that I'm using my opportunity here to ground us here in this space. As was mentioned, I wear many hats. So I'm newly an organizer for Mothers Out Front who are mobilizing for climate action. I am on the Governor's Council of Environmental Justice, and I'm also on my tribal council. But I'm here today offering my own personal stance and why I rise and why I hope that you all are rising here today too. And so this is just, I want to share with you really, to me, what the power of your voices are and what the powers of stories are. And so to do so, I would like to start something, I would like to share a story, and to me it's the most precious story that we have, and that's the story of our creation. Has anybody ever heard of Turtle Island? Yeah. So this is a really short version of how Turtle Island got its name, Rawquis and Nottoway. If you would like to hear the full version of the story, you can come to our powwow next weekend in Surrey, both Saturday and Sunday. But I think that this story is really going to hopefully ground us in what we're all here today and to orient us into the space, which, as was mentioned, has been occupied for thousands of years of our ancestors who are Siouan speaking as my mother's people, and Iroquoian speaking as my father's people, and Algonquian speaking along the coast. So it starts with all of us. Before we were walking on this earth, we all lived up in Sky World, and there was a woman, Sky Woman, married to the chief. In Sky World, imagine there was this beautiful celestial tree in the middle of just the entire world, and from that tree, everything that we needed came from it, all the seeds and all the things that sustained us. One night, Sky Woman had a dream that the tree needed to be uprooted. And because dreams are so incredibly important in Iroquoian culture, when she woke up, she told everybody about it, and they said, okay, we have to do this. And so one by one, the people in Sky World tried to lift up the tree until finally, after the roots are loose, I guess, the chief decides to go for it. And he does. He lifts the tree up and lays it to the side, leaving a giant hole in Sky World. So Sky Woman, being curious, goes up to the hole and she looks down and she sees Ahway, just this whole beautiful, vast world of water below her. And she's curious and she's looking down into the hole. She's looking down, and what do we think might have happened to Sky Woman? Oops. Yep, oops, she fell. So she's falling and she reaches her hands back up and she's grasping onto the tree. She's trying to climb back into Sky World, and all she can do is grab the seeds from the branches as she's falling, and she's falling. Now I'm gonna skip some of these parts of the story because we're all steamy here, but just trust me on this. There were critters down there, I'll explain that later. But the critters down there looked up and they were like, oh no, this woman is falling from the sky. This is not good. We don't have anywhere for her to stand. This is all water. So they all start to try to figure out what to do. So the geese are like, okay, we got this. The geese go up, they catch her on their wings, and they hold her. While down below, all the critters start to work together to figure out, how are we gonna solve this problem? Well, first Beaver goes for it. It says, hey, y'all, I heard the deep below the water, there's some earth, so I'm gonna try and go get it. Well, Beaver goes, swims, doesn't do it, comes back up. Loon says, I'm a strong flyer and swimmer, so Loon dives down, goes farther than Beaver, can't do it, comes back up. Now our geese are getting tired, and the animals are starting to worry. And then they hear this small little voice. And the voice says, I'll do it or I'll die trying. And they look around, and y'all, it was little muskrat. Tiniest little critter. And I don't know if y'all have been around swamps or creeks, but the muskrat is a really small little water animal. And Muskrat said, I'll do it or I'll die trying. So she swims past where the beaver went, past where the loon went, and just when she thought she couldn't take it anymore, her paw hits the earth. She grabs it in mud, she swims back up. Now we still have to figure out where we're gonna put this earth. And our friend Rawquis, which is Turtle says, I know, you can put it on my back. Muskrat puts the earth on Turtle's back. Geese bring Sky Woman down, and she stands on the shell. She's so excited. She starts to dance and spreads the earth wider and wider, lets the seeds come down, and that's how Turtle Island began. But there's a hero in our story, right? We had some small voice that said, against all of these odds, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do this. And I'm going to keep trying. And so I think about this story often in the environmental work that we're doing and how it takes everybody at least trying, working together, seeing a problem and doing everything in their powers to create a solution, together, rising. And today we're asking our leaders to do just that, to not only listen to our voices and our stories, but to act on them. And as I think about the power of stories, I'm reminded of something that happened just in this building back in the spring. So I serve on the Governor's Council of Environmental Justice, and we were having our March meeting when members of Union Hill in Buckingham County came to our meeting. And during public comment, they said all about their concerns about the compressor station being built for the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. And they invited us to come to their community and witness it for ourselves. And so we did. We went to Buckingham, we visited Union Hill Baptist Church, we took tours around, we saw the location, we listened to hours of testimony from the residents, and it was undeniable the environmental racism and injustices that are being proposed here. And had they not come to plead their case, we wouldn't have known to go there. We wouldn't have known to see it ourselves. And so subsequently, our council submitted a powerful letter to Governor Northam, urging him to act not only on their behalf, but for all of us, as the pollution and the effects of gas fracking and infrastructure vastly contribute to climate change. And so I'll just read a tiny bit from the letter. It goes on, there's 13 pages of it, and it talks about the environmental justice, health impacts, water quality risks, cultural and natural resources, and the effects of methane gas on our climate. But in it we say to Governor Northam, in order to move Virginia forward, ensuring its place as a leader in environmental justice, addressing the global climate crisis, and building a 21st century clean energy economy, we recommend that the governor direct state permitting agencies to prioritize renewable energy solutions and quickly transition away from fossil fuels. And so what we see all over are people standing up no matter what the odds are. They'll do it or they're going to die trying. And just like the muskrat is my hero from the creation story, the residents of Buckingham County are my heroes in this fight against new fossil fuel infrastructure. If you wish to help, the air permit comment period is ending on Tuesday. There's a big hearing. You can submit your comments directly online. You can get with any of us and ask us how to do that. So please, let's all stand with Buckingham and talk about that compressor station. So there's thousands of us doing that. There are also so many more heroes in this fight. One of them, Kim Williams, in our crowd. We have Emily Satterwright, Becky Crabtree, Red, our tree sitters, those who are standing up physically and demanding that we do what's right in our hearts, which is to tell our elected officials the things that we're asking you to do today to tell them, which is no more fossil fuel money, no more fossil fuel infrastructure, and a swift, just transition to clean, renewable energy. So y'all are my heroes. Everyone here today is my heroes. You standing here and signing a petition, giving your voice, that's what it takes. Yeah. So before I pass the mic, I just want to pay your attention, and really I want to make this statement to all of our elected officials because it impacts them as well. I want to bring everyone's attention to the circular path down to the right of me, your left, by the bell tower. And if you haven't had a chance to see it, it's this is the Virginia Indian Tribute. And the title of it is Mantle, and so it's a circular path. And it's designed after the Powhatan Chief's cloak, which has these little shell beads, and they're sewn in spiral clusters. You might have seen a replica of it at Jamestown Settlement. The original one is in a museum in England, but it's designed to embody several things. I mean, the word mantle itself has several meanings. It's, to quote Francis Brodus Crutchfield, who wrote a poem for that day, it's a chief's cloak, it's a pathway, it's water, it's a seat for the weary. According to the artist, it's Ellen Michelson, who's Mohawk. He says that title often refers to the mantle of the earth, the organ that protects clamshells, mollusks, but most importantly, it's the mantle of responsibility conferred on our leaders. So if you're to walk in that path, you're going to walk in a circular pathway, and you're going to get to the middle, and in the middle there are the names of all the indigenous names of the waters that were here at Contact. And so you're thinking about our rivers and our people, and you're looking at our ancestors, and folks are your ancestors too. And so I would like our elected officials to, as they sit on this hill and they make their decisions, I want them to look at that mantle. I would love for them to walk on that path and think, what kind of ancestors are we going to be? What kind of ancestors are we going to leave this earth for? And I can't stand here and not remember the Haudenosaunee Great Law of Peace that says that we must think about the 7 generations behind us, learn those lessons, but then every single decision we make today, we look for the 7 generations forward. So Governor Northam, Lieutenant Governor Herring, as you wear and carry your mantle, will you raise your hand like our friend the muskrat? Will you be that bold hero in our story? And so today, y'all, I rise for our ancestors who cared for this place for thousands of years. I'm assuring them that I remember the Great Law of Peace, and I'm looking at amazing people that also do the same, and I know that I've spoken quite a bit, and so I appreciate your patience with me, and I just really am thankful and grateful for all of you to be here, and thank you for rising with me today.
New Virginia Majority is actually registering voters at this very moment and cannot make it, so she sent a statement. She is the lead political organizer of the Richmond metro area for New Virginia Majority, which is a grassroots civic engagement and advocacy organization that builds power in working class communities of color and fights for a Virginia that is just, democratic, and environmentally sustainable. Her important work enriches the metro area and Virginia at large. So I'd like to read you the statement that she sent for today. When it comes to climate change here in Virginia, we really can't discuss it without also discussing how communities of color are affected the most and also left out of the conversation most of the time. Let me start by saying Flint still doesn't have clean drinking water. I know that's not Virginia, but is it really that difficult to imagine it happening here? The answer is simply no. I know the pipelines are a big topic of discussion right now, but let's talk about what's happening right now in communities of color and not what may happen. In Hampton Roads, the water levels have been rising dangerously for some years. It's to the point that heavy rains will cause flooding and shutdown of roads. Why aren't we talking about this? Or how about in Lambert's Point, which is a majority black community located in the Norfolk area? Let's talk about how they cannot even hang their clothes on the line to dry, because if they do, coal dust from Norfolk Southern will land on them. Or how in Lambert's Point, the rate of asthma in young children is at a ridiculously high level. It's in the house, it's on our doors, said Tracy Williams, a 34-year-old who's lived in Lambert's Point for 7 years. She tells stories of seeing her 7-year-old son come in after playing outside with dust around his mouth and nose like a 5 o'clock shadow. Williams has to change her air filter at least twice a month. Any longer, and she can feel the dust in her home. Her mother has developed chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, since moving into the neighborhood. We aren't the first to fight this, she said. There are people dying of different things from the coal dust every day in this community. When people don't see the results year after year, I don't think they forget about it. I just think they feel helpless, like there's no one to hear them. Or how about the fact that about 1/3 of air pollutants in Virginia come from right here in the Richmond metropolitan area? We are number 2 on the top 20 asthma capital lists put out just this year by the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America. These are just a few ways the fight for environmental justice, climate change, and social justice intersect. We must not ignore these facts. I would like to challenge everyone here to join in the fight for justice in ways that are outside of your norm. If we want more people of color to be involved in the fight for climate change, we must understand what the fight looks like for those communities and work together. So when we talk about the pipelines and other climate change issues, we are doing our communities a huge injustice if we do not also include in those conversations the disparities in environmental justice along racial and class lines. We must become more intentional in our racial equity discussions when talking about climate change. That was a statement from Monica Hutchinson of New Virginia Majority. So thank you, Monica. I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker. Just a moment. And just a reminder, if you have any pictures you're taking today and you're putting them on social media, you can tag them Rise for Climate or Rise for Virginia. Send them to the governor, the lieutenant governor, and Attorney General Herring. Our next speaker that I'm very pleased to introduce is Monica Flippen. She is of the steering committee for the Virginia Interfaith Power and Light. She is the vice president of KEI Architects, holds a bachelor's degree in geology and mathematics, a master's in mathematical sciences, and is in the Master of Divinity program at the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology at Virginia Union University. Ms. Flippen's work with Virginia Interfaith Power and Light helps allow them to work with congregations of all faiths across Virginia on saving energy, going green, and responding to climate change. Welcome, Ms. Flippen.
Thank you for being here. We could be anywhere, but today we are here to support everything that's going on in our environment, to say that we say actually hell no to any of this stuff that's going on that's a detriment to the people and the animals, the climate, and everywhere. So Virginia Interfaith Power and Light is an organization that works with people of all faiths to ensure healthy communities and environmental justice through education and advocacy. Every day, increasingly frequent crises and natural disasters illustrate a disastrous global environmental imbalance. Earthquakes, hurricanes, wildfires, and mudslides reverberate an ongoing political shift away from an empowered populace and toward a power-grabbing corporate autocracy. We believe that a just transition to a new energy and economic future must and will rebuild, renew, and restore the balance between people, the environment, and our economy. That balance will only be achieved when we prioritize the well-being of people over profit, protect and strengthen frontline communities, mandate racial and cultural equity for those who are too often left out or left behind, and invest in institutions that strengthen and enhance the common good of all people while combating the crisis of climate change. Climate change and our dangerous energy choices exasperates the issues that the people of faith are already working on, such as hunger, clean water, immigration and refugees, and global conflict. We know that climate disruption harms the health and well-being of pregnant women, newborns, children, the elderly, and people with asthma and allergies. People of color and low-income communities are disproportionately impacted by our society's waste and energy choices harming their health, which is an injustice. Environmental injustice directly intersects with our society issues such as racism, economic justice, and criminal justice. We advocate for science-based, faith-driven solutions to the climate crises, and we refuse to be content knowing that our neighbors are living in sacrificial zones.
That's right.
If we show up and speak up, we will move towards the ethical, moral, just, and sound solutions the climate crisis urgently demands, and that is exactly what we are doing today and what faith leaders have been doing across the Commonwealth, across the nation, and across the world. In a world guided by private interests, complex systems of power, and shoddy standards of political leadership, it is easy for those in power to further paradigms that are corrupt, false, and destructive. It can be easy for the public to accept these aggressively promoted paradigms as logical or even desirable, especially in the absence of an alternative narrative. It is the role of the people of faith to both shine light on what is corrupt, false, and destructive, and lift up an alternative paradigm handed down through the millennia across many different faith and wisdom traditions. This common paradigm is one that honors all life, that holds loving your neighbor paramount, and that envisions abundance, health, and dignity for all members of the human community and the ecosystem on which humans depend. That means that at a minimum, clean water to drink, clean air to breathe, and a healthy environment that supports life. They expect us to simply accept all of this because they believe we like an alternative paradigm. They are wrong. As people of faith, we're here to say there is an alternative based on cooperation and mutual respect between neighbors rather than alienation and grasping acquisition. This alternative is rooted in a great love for all that lives. We humans are ingenious creatures, and when motivated by love, we can find solutions that will heal rather than harm, create rather than destroy, and which increase health and abundance while addressing our pressing economic needs, including affordable energy production and job creation, solar and wind, decentralized and localized energy production, freestanding microgrids, electrified public transportation, smart urban planning, green infrastructure investment, and biometric technologies are just some of these solutions, and they are already available here. We are and will remain committed to a future worthy of the next generation, one that harnesses ecological wisdom and neighborly love for a just and healthy Virginia. We urge the political leaders, such as Governor Northam, to protect Virginia's safety and health by heeding the urgent call to act for justice. We must answer the moral call by standing with frontline communities, ensuring the safety and health of all Virginians, and protecting our sacred waters and land. It is our moral responsibility to leave a safe climate for our children and future generations. By bringing communities together, we can achieve justice, clean energy, clean air, and clean water for all. We must demand that our leaders provide 100% clean and renewable future. Economic opportunity for everyone. Communities and workplaces that are pollution-free. Finally, I ask you to visit our website at vaipl.org, and once you're there, I need you to do two things. First, I ask you to stand with Union Hill and Buckingham County community by clicking on the link to submit a comment to the Virginia Air Pollution Control Board and the Department of Environmental Quality, asking them to deny the air permit for the Buckingham compression station. My second request is that while on the website, you sign up to receive our e-newsletters and any emails so that you will be aware of all of the climate justice things that are going on in Virginia and everywhere.
Introducing our next speaker, Jessica Bull. She was born and raised in Northern Virginia, is an artist and instructor, and after working for a nonprofit that represented the construction industry, found that her personal beliefs and the birth of her daughter led her to a new chapter, a devotion to securing the future for her daughter and for a livable climate for Virginia. She is a founding member of the RVA Mothers Out Front team, a membership-led organization of mothers, grandmothers, and caregivers working to make a livable, clean future for all of our children. Welcome, Jessica.
I wanted to start out by thanking everyone who organized this event. Events like this are what hold our leaders accountable for the wishes of their voters and keep what power we have as citizens in our hands. Thank you. My name is Jessica Bull, and I'm here to represent Mothers Out Front, an organization that mobilizes mothers and grandmothers and caregivers of all kinds to advocate for their community and in the name of climate justice. They've given me, as well as many other moms, the tools they need to become fierce advocates in their cities and towns. Now, I'll need you all to forgive me a bit because I don't often speak in front of large groups of people. In fact, this is my first time ever and I'm really nervous. But here I am to stand up for my community. I'm a Richmond mom. I live not far from here with my daughter, who's actually right there. With my daughter, my husband, and my mom, who's right over there too. My husband works in an ER at a hospital not 10 minutes from here. I like to take my daughter to the park, to Bird Park, and walk along the James River. I didn't go to school for political science or environmental science, and I got a C in my public speaking class. My hands are so sweaty right now, I might drop my speech. But today, I woke up early, handed my baby off to my mother, and turned my crazy mom schedule upside down so I could come here and talk to you fine people. 5 years ago, before I even had a crazy mom schedule, I would have maybe watched a YouTube video of this rally, and that would have satisfied my hunger for participation in the climate justice movement. That all changed not long after my daughter was born. She's almost 2 now, and she's the happiest, go-luckiest tiny human I've ever seen. But she was born a Spitfire. My daughter had a wicked case of colic when she was born. Even our pediatrician looked at us like, ugh. No matter what we did, what we fed her, what I fed me, or how fast or slow we bounced her, she cried almost all day and all night. If you've ever tried to coax a frantic baby to sleep, you know how stressful it can be. You may also know how much late night news you can wind up watching in that time. So one night I was sitting there at 3 a.m. stewing over the latest report of doom and gloom over climate change. I was sitting there on my couch with tired bags under my eyes, holding my infant daughter, more helpless and vulnerable than I'd ever been in my entire life. My body was still healing from her being born, and I was scraping by on just a few hours of sleep. I was barely eating with the demands of this fierce little being that needed and needed and needed. And like all mothers, I loved her so much that I gave and gave and gave. That's what we mothers do. Sometimes until we don't want to anymore, but we do, we just do. I can't remember exactly what it was, but all of a sudden I was overwhelmed with the back and forth policy making and unmaking, or at least more overwhelmed than I already was. The beginning of motherhood is so vulnerable, I don't think I understood exactly what vulnerable felt like until that moment. It's much more than feeling vulnerable for our own well-being. It's about looking at our children and needing to protect them. And that's when I snapped. I felt so much rage at the news that I went from helplessness to absolute resolution. How could this be the world our children grow up in? Will my daughter have asthma, like the other little kids with panicked faces who have to be rushed to the ER for my husband to treat? Will her school have water that's safe to drink? How could we be putting in all this hard work just so that our children will have to fight for these basic necessities? In that moment, I went from wanting to act on my beliefs to needing to. We can't sit by anymore. We can't just share a Facebook post and call it a day. We can't just donate $10 to an environmental organization once a year. We need to get off that couch and vote for science. So that's why I'm here, to ask our local leaders to represent the best interests of me and all of the other concerned mothers like me and all of you and all of Richmond by supporting the switch to clean energy. To stop voting for more fossil fuel projects and pipelines, and to stop undoing the progress we have made every time we manage to take steps forward. This denial of truth and the campaign against science and reason needs to stop. I'm talking to you, Richmond policymakers. Your constituents aren't confused anymore. It's not fake news. The scientific community has meticulously counted and calculated and come to a clear understanding of the problems and causes of climate change, and most importantly, what the consequences are and will be. We are living the consequences every day as we watch our children struggle with asthma. They keep us up at night as we wonder whether the level of lead in our tap water is safe for their little bodies to drink. We know what needs to be done, and we know why it's not being done. Corporate dollars are taking the place of our votes and our voices as the people you are supposed to represent. Your failure to take the measures that need to be taken to fix our dysfunctional infrastructure are the reason I have to take time away from my precious daughter and speak in front of so many people. But I am turning every knot and butterfly in my stomach into determination. The adrenaline making my hand shake is also giving me the guts to be here on this stage, or these steps. I won't let fear hold me back anymore. I am smashing my comfort zone to pieces, and I'm completely disregarding all of my self-doubt because I have the biggest motivator in the world, my daughter. And I'm not alone. We are about 85 million mothers strong in the US, and I'd say that's a lot of voting power. In fact, if you're a mom in the crowd, go ahead and raise your hand. I want to see all the moms, the grandmothers, the caregivers of any kind, and anyone who wants to be a mother someday. Raise your hands up. You know that phrase, hold my beer? Well, hold my diaper bag, because mothers are mobilizing. Mothers all over the country are turning insecurity to strength and despair to hope. That's what this movement is all about, moving forward. As our leaders, your jobs are not to argue over why clean energy can't be done, because it's the only responsible option we have on the table. The only thing you should be arguing about is the best way to get it done. If my story resonates with you, I urge you to approach Beth Roach or myself about Mothers Out Front. We are holding an informational meeting at my home on September 22nd, and we'd love for you to join us. You can advocate for your children, and we can teach you how. Thank you.
Our co-director of Progressive Democrats of America and a Democratic nominee for the 4th District in 2008. She is the Executive Director of People Demanding Action, which is a multi-issue advocacy group. Her work as an organizer and as an IT professional helped through virtual phone banks reach underrepresented voters in Virginia, Alabama, and Pennsylvania, and we welcome her today.
Everybody for coming out today. I realized I just said, hey, pull my bio off the website. I also am a member of the coordinating committee for the Virginia Poor People's Campaign. And so we are here, and we are here in Virginia. And Reverend Barber will be here in Virginia on September 26th, and we will be lifting up the struggles of the people in Union Hill. Yes. All right, now, as you can see, I brought no speech with me. That's because my eyes and my age have gotten so bad I couldn't see it anyway. So I have spent roughly 50 years as an organizer. I started when I was 12. You can add, so you know where I am now. Anyway, I spent a lot of time organizing, and one of the things I want to say about all the lovely, all the lovely young women who spoke is, stop being so nice. These politicians don't deserve it. They have not earned your kindness, let alone your respect and or your deference. You want to become like me before I had to become me. You want them to see me and then they run. When Mark Warner sees me, the man crosses the street. Right? When I want Mark Warner on a piece of legislation, I call him up and say, tell him it's me. And if he doesn't get on, I'll be in the office tomorrow. And you know he doesn't want that. All right? So again, your cause is righteous. What you want is correct. What I'm going to work with you on is melding together a movement that has been very, very successful. The Me Too movement has gained a lot of steam. It has been very successful. It has exercised power, and it has shoved some powerful people out of their powerful positions. Yes, me too. Oh, I'm looking at that baby. I love that. All right, now, what we are looking at in Union Hill, what we are looking at in so many of our climate and justice environments is we are looking at since when does no not mean no? The people at Union Hill said no. As a matter of fact, cover the baby's ears, they said hell no. When you say no, no means no. Let's borrow that from the women's movement and let's bring that into the climate justice movement. No means no. It doesn't mean maybe, and it doesn't mean, oh, put more money on the nightstand when you leave. It means no. Get out of here with that nonsense. And now I'm going to add something on the tail end of that. It's get out of there with that nonsense and go tell your little political lackeys that we're coming for them if they can't figure out how to get you under control. You obviously can't control yourself. So I see some young people here. Don't have much gray hair. Some of you don't have any gray hair. What I want you to do is, I want you to think about maybe in a year or two, running for office if your alleged representative is not representing you and they are representing Dominion. Yeah. All right? Who voted to give Dominion the governorship? You know, Governor Ralph took $900,000 from Tom Steyer. If I were Tom Steyer, I'd be saying, I want my money back. I am not happy with what I did. I invested, and I got nothing for my investment. One of the big issues that we have with Dominion, and I'm only going to focus on one as opposed to the entire litany, is Dominion has ripped off the ratepayers of Virginia. We all know that, right? All right, they have ripped us off. They have claimed that they are going to give us some renewable energy. Yet every time they say no to mandatory renewable standards. Well, we're introducing a bill that's going to tell them, we want you to be providing 100% clean, safe, renewable energy, and we're putting a date on it, 2035. 2035. And that regional greenhouse gas initiative where you're going to keep on using fossil fuels, but people are going to pay to poison us? Get out of here with that nonsense. RGGI does not stop fossil fuel use. RGGI encourages it. RGGI says coal is bad, but methane is okay. Can they read? Obviously not. So what we're going to have to do is make sure our legislators, make sure our family and our friends understand carbon pricing is pay to poison. We're going to keep on poisoning the frontline communities. We're going to just give them a little money because we did. We're going to pay for the privilege. That is not okay. So I invite everybody to join us on the 26th when Reverend Barber is here and we lift up our dear friends in Union Hill. And thank you all very, Governor Northam, stand up for Union Hill. Governor Northam, stand up for Virginia and for the planet and the rest of that ridiculous General Assembly behind you. Stand up. Get a clue. Or, now that I'm not spending as much time in Capitol Hill, I'll be down here visiting you. And you'll be running from me. Thank you.
So we are reaching the end of today's program, and so we want to invite all of you to very carefully gather on the steps here. We're going to gather for a group picture for the conclusion of the event, and we have a song. Does everybody have a flyer? Fuels down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. People gonna rise like the water, gonna shut the pipelines down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. People gonna rise like the water, gonna shut corruption down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. People gonna rise like the water, gonna shut dominion down. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter saying climate justice now. So let's hear it. Climate justice now!
On that, and then information on talking to your legislators on getting some actual climate justice legislation passed in Virginia. So again, thank you all so much, and thank you to our amazing, powerful, wonderful speakers that spoke today too.